Did not. Todd's here.
They're gonna need a microphone.
Big time, ladies and gentlemen. He called me about anything. Larry coming? Yeah, he said he just texted me 10 minutes out. Southport? Tom, he's the school board attorney. Sit up front. How about here? Yeah, sure. Larry. Water over there for about. He's the county attorney. Larry, there you go. Thank you. Tom, that was yours. Are we ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and welcome to meeting number 4 of the Celebration Education Task Force. My name is Tom Sonneborg. It is now Monday, December 14th, 2015, about 7:11, so we're a few minutes late already. And as chairman of this task force, I call this meeting to order. We have a large group again this evening, standing room only, first time. So before we get started, let's just go around the table quickly. Say your name and who you're representing. I'll start. I'm Tom Sonneborg. I'm with the task force.
Rebecca Newman with the task force.
Jeff McNeil with the task force.
Vanessa Winter-Crowe.
Larry Brown, school board clerk.
Clarence Thacker, school board.
Jay Wheeler, school board.
Tom Phelps, Deputy Superintendent with the School District.
Rose Polizzi, middle school counselor, Celebration K school and resident.
Debbie McDonald-Crowe.
Todd Rivers, Celebration Company.
Bill Lucy, CDD. Steve Ryan, Executive Director, Town Hall.
And Tom Tewson, task force.
And Pat Schroeder, task force.
Thank you, everyone. We've got a couple of task force members who sent their regrets. Dan Heskett is unable to join. Sophia Graves, our high school liaison, has
The IB dance program?
something official.
It's the IB
And
dance.
Brian, I'm not sure. He may join us in a second. Let's leave his chair available. So in addition to a room full of concerned citizens, we also have a few other invited guests who there was not enough room at our table. So let me just introduce a few people who may or may not get up to the microphone here, but we're happy that they're here. From the school district, Clyde Wells is here. I think Rhonda is not, but Clyde is. Kathy Carr is the executive director of the Osceola Foundation for Public Education. Dr. Sonia Esposito, the Osceola County School District Director of Charter Schools and School Choice. John Bushy is here, was the former principal of the Celebration School. From Charter Schools USA, we have Richard Page, Scott Woodry, and Denise Thompson. And the Crow staff, in addition to Steve and Susan, I think Rachel Benash is here, and J.R. Rupp's behind the camera. So next order of business, I'm not sure that all of you got the notes from the last meeting. I know they were published, but we're not, we don't behave like a typical committee, officially reviewing and approving notes and signing and all those things. They were terrific. There were a couple of misspellings of names. And let's just,
Imagine
and I
tonight.
think you got those. Let's
Yeah,
fix them
yeah.
and republish.
And compliments from the school board secretary. She told me today that they came in timely, they were good, and so just do it again so she
Yep.
doesn't clown up my book.
Terrific.
Yep.
Thank you. You all have the agenda. It's pretty simple tonight. Unless there's any objections, I'd like to get right to it. Agenda's okay? Okay.
Yes.
Consider that approved. So, last week, I don't think anybody at all is pleased with the progress that we did not make. We're behind. I think we can make it up today. My intent and the task force's intent is that we get through all of the alternatives, get through pros and cons on all of them. We only got through 4 last time. Let's keep it brief, let's keep it to the point, let's have the conversation be constructive, but we want to get through all the pros and cons on all the options, and if there are more that come up in conversation, we might have 10, we might have 11 by the time we finish tonight. But in order to make our remaining meetings as productive as possible, let's keep our eye on the ball and stay focused tonight. We'll start out where we left off last meeting. We got through alternative 4, which was the idea of building a charter school in Island Village or somewhere else in Celebration. At the end of our meeting last week, we agreed with Jay Wheeler's suggestion that we devote a little bit of time during this meeting to hear a presentation about charter schools. Jay and I have talked quite a bit since then. He's agreed to keep it brief, but the folks that are coming to see us from Charter Schools USA are here as our guests. Let's treat them with the courtesy and respect that they deserve. And Jay has agreed to keep it brief. So,
Want to get
Jay?
started?
Yes.
I'm gonna go to the podium. Okay, first off, and I will keep it brief. I want to thank everybody for coming, and part of the reason I'm doing this presentation is because I have presented this plan, and I got to take ownership of something I present. And first off, you all need to understand something about this meeting in particular. This is a sunshine meeting for Clarence Thacker and I. There's very few of these opportunities, so I may address him, he may address me. We can discuss things openly in this meeting in front of all of you. We typically can't, and I see this as a unique opportunity. And in fairness, Clarence, this is the first time since I've been on the school board locally there's been a sunshine meeting outside of the school board, so that's a good thing. First off, let me get started and explain something. I appreciate all of you here concerning this issue. I really do. However, at the end of the day, you may come up with a number of different things. It's really up to the school board to solve a problem. Now, that's not to suggest that we are not open to things that may come from this, but it's on us. You know, you're going to go back doing what you're doing, and meanwhile, the problem still rests with us. And my job is to be a zealous advocate for those that I represent. That's what I was elected to do. With saying that, unless there are more resources, more land, and more money, I've got to work within the confines of the resources that are available, which is what I have done. Now, if the resource picture changes, there are other options to be considered, but until those resources surface, I've got to be as pragmatic as I can to bring something across the finish line so we can open a school in August 2018. That's how I see it. Now, insofar as Clarence Thacker, I'm going to address you for a second, Clarence. Clarence has made it clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he is not necessarily anti-charter school, but he thinks that the Osceola School District should be running public schools and not necessarily charter schools. One of the reasons I'm doing this presentation is because I've got to own it, and because there is an option for a public school as well. So I'm going to just throw that out on the table. I think that you... One of the issues with the charter schools, we retain our $12.5 million, and we can open a school in Celebration. There is the prospect of doing a joint high school with Orange County, Pam Gould. If you do a joint school with another contiguous school district in the state of Florida, the state pays 25%. So if a school costs $80 million, a high school, all in, 3,000 student stations, state's in for $20 million, each district's in for $30 million. In Orange County, for them to do any school, they've got to go in front of the Orange County Commission, which is very contentious and doesn't approve stuff. So she likes the idea of doing a school in Osceola at 429 and 192, which Leonard Tim shared with me. There's land available there. And if we did a school there, we're in for $30 million, they're in for $30 million. We keep our $12.5 million, and we're in for $17.5 million for 1,500 student stations at a high school over there, which we do need a high school here eventually. So that's a financial attractive piece. I have invited Kathy Carr from the Foundation on Education. If you could all please silence your phones, thank you. It's okay. Good Christmas music, though. I invited Kathy Carr here from the Education
I'm going to give you
Foundation.
another 20 seconds for that.
Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, and I love you too, Tom. I invited Kathy Carter from the Education Foundation, and I invited Sonia Esposito from Charter and Choice here. And we've got Denise Thompson is here from Charter Schools USA. She's the principal of Four Corners Charter School. This woman is an amazing educator. Now, at the last meeting, there were a bunch of different comments made one way or the other. One person mentioned, well, charter schools are being built with bulletproof glass. I didn't know about that, so I checked it out. There are no charter schools being built with bulletproof glass in Osceola County. Let me make that perfectly clear right here, right now. I did my homework on that, so I just want to make that clear. Dr. Esposito is here. She approves choice and charter, and the charter applications go through her. And in courtesy to her, she's got to be out of here by 8 p.m. She's got a flight to catch. So I want to make that clear. So the reason I'm doing the presentation is because I've got to own this. So Clarence, if you'll pass these around this way, if you'll pass these around this way. Tom asked me to use handouts instead of the screen. So Tom, I'm accommodating you.
Thank you.
First, I got to tell you a story as you're getting these about Charter Schools USA. We had Imagine Schools running Four Corners Charter School. We did an RFQ because their results were not very good. We selected Charter Schools USA. When we selected Charter Schools USA, Imagine Schools came in and they wiped the operating system off of all the computers in that school when they left. Charter Schools USA, and the principal who ran that school is here, John Bushy. At their expense, they re-imaged all those computers. The school was a mess. They painted the school. They did what's right for kids, and they've got an A at that school ever since. Now, Ms. Schroeder, you mentioned that charter schools don't perform terribly well. You're right. Historically, throughout the country, they don't. In Osceola County, we're very fortunate. We've got a charter operator that does perform well. That's why, in my opinion, in Osceola County, the only company with a track record that I trust that can bring the money and the performance is Charter Schools USA. I'm going to ask Kathy if you'd join me up here for a second, please. After we brought them, Charter Schools USA, into Four Corners, we then squeezed Imagine, who was running Four Corners, out of two, PM Wells and Canoe Creek with Charter School, which the foundation runs. And Kathy, if you just tell your experience with Charter Schools USA from performance, financial, et cetera, I would appreciate that.
Good evening, panel. I'm with the Education Foundation Osceola County, and we're the school district's foundation. So everything we do supports our district and the children in that district. And back in the year 2000, we were growing so quickly here in Osceola County that we learned that the Education Foundation could, as a 501c3, could hold charters. And so we actually hold the charter for 3 charter schools here in Osceola County, and one of them is Bella Lago, and actually the management company that runs that for us is our school district. And the other 2 are PM Wells and Canoe Creek Academy, and those 2 are run by Charter Schools USA. And Jay is correct, we've had a fabulous relationship with Charter Schools USA. They have done a great job educating the students in those schools for the foundation, and we're very pleased to work with them. They've always been very responsive to anything that we have a charter school board of trustees at the foundation, which is a group similar to the regular school board that runs our 3 charter schools for us. And they've been very pleased with Charter Schools USA. They've been very accommodating for everything that we've needed and really turned our schools around from where they were with our previous management company.
Thank you. And thank you, Kathy. One of the other reasons I asked Kathy to come here is Kathy and I have had conversations. Part of the other issue is if there is a charter school done, we need somebody who can take the land, and the school district cannot. The Education Foundation, it has to go to a board, but with Kathy's support, I'm sure they would approve, would be willing to be the steward of that land, provided it was a public school for 30-plus years at like $1 a year lease, so that way they could build the extra amenities like a gym, like ball fields, without having to pay for the land. You'd benefit from those amenities. I'm not going to go through this whole presentation. You've got it in front of you. There are representatives from Charter Schools USA here. I'd like to bring, actually, Denise Thompson. Please stand up, please, Denise. Denise Thompson, if you go to, there's a page here, looks like this, shows the results. You notice Charter Schools USA and Four Corners Charter Schools gotten A's going forward. That's under John Bushy's watch, and John hired Denise and trained her, is that correct?
Ask her.
Between anyone.
Denise is, we're talking about principles, John. Denise is an amazing educator. She gets the best out of kids, and I can't say enough about her. If there are educational questions, that's why I asked Denise to be here. If you will go to Four Corners Charter School, I'm sorry, yeah, sure. Anybody not have a copy? I've got some extras. Okay, they all got copies. If you go to, there's a page that says Four Corners Charter School on here. Looks like this. They've got an enrollment of 1,042 with a waiting list of 665. That's because they are a perennial A school. That's why I trust these people. They know what they are doing with public education. They do the right thing for kids. No, it would not be part of the school district if we had them in here. But I do trust them with our kids. And with the amenities and things I know Celebration will want. Again, I'm not going to go through this entire presentation. If you go to Four Corners Upper School, this page here, they just built this high school, and I insisted when they did it, and the guy who developed it's right here, Scott Woodry, that there is a gym there, because I believe kids deserve equity. I believe that if you're going to go to a public school, we want to give everybody the same opportunity, and the place is beautiful, and there are people in Celebration High School who are aching for a turf field, and when I went out there, I found out they have a turf field, and so now there are people jealous of the turf field they have out there. They know what they're doing. I trust them. There are people who've got concerns about charter schools. That's fine. If you can, anybody here, if you've got a way to get more land and more money, the conversation changes. Meanwhile, we've got a limited amount of resources in land and money. They can bring a school out of the ground. Now, one of the things that I did speak with the representatives from Charter Schools USA about, I did talk with them before we came in here, and Tom, I'll leave this to you. If you would like to tour the school they just built, they will arrange where you can get in next week. Now, we don't want it to be, 2 people on Tuesday, 3 people on Wednesday, 1 person on Monday, but they are willing to accommodate you, so if you would like to see that. And, again, we're looking at, you're going to, no matter what you do, there's going to be somebody who's not going to be happy about it. But you got a 1,500 student station school here. You all know my position on that. I think it's a great school. I don't want to change it. The high school is a great school. I don't want to change that. We need student stations. Here's an opportunity to get student stations using the land we've got, getting you more amenities. You'll have 2 top-performing schools, 2,600 student stations between the two. We'll have additional money left over, Clarence, $12.5 million in impact fees we can use potentially towards another new school or somewhere else, but we've got a willing partner. And I believe, I'm directing this to you now, Clarence, our next superintendent can get a joint school across the finish line with Orange County because they've got a desire to do it, and they don't want to deal with the Orange County Commission. They can do it. All they got to do is supply us money and kids. And we got $12.5 million towards the $30 million we need. So for that $17.5 million delta, we get a charter school here with 1,100 student stations, another 1,500 student stations at 429 and 192. So we get 2,600 student stations for an effective $17.5 million. And to build a school for 2,600 student stations, you're looking at $50 to $70 million. I think it's a good use of money, it's a good use of resources, creates healthy competition. Now, with that said, Tom, I tried to play the minute waltz in 58 seconds for you. So with that said, now it's time for Q&A. I want to just stop. Somebody said, I've got other interests. That's why I'm pursuing a charter school. My other interests are doing what's right for kids in Osceola County. That's been my interest since I got elected in 2002. If somebody can show where I've got other interests beyond that, God bless you. So with that said, Debbie, you got a question?
I have
Yeah.
a question. John, I know you've been in education for 35-plus years, I'm guessing, but you've done public and charter, and I'm not as versed in something. Can you give us any pros or cons? Sorry.
Now, I love John, but it takes him 10 minutes to say hello.
Jay, by the way, thank you. That was 12 minutes. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I want to ask Dr.
No, I mean, we'll
Esposito.
do some Q&A, but
I want to ask Dr. Esposito. first.
let me ask, or just say something first. Let's do a little bit of Q&A. Ask those short, easy questions. If there's anything that's more in-depth, we'd be happy to take questions by email, send them to Tom Tuzin, he'll gather them all up, we'll send them to Jay and Charter Schools USA, and we'll publish the answers.
I think that
Thanks for
means 1
volunteering
minute.
for that, Tom.
1 minute answer, I guess.
1 minute answer? Okay. I came into Osceola County in the year 2000 as principal of the K-12 school here in Celebration. I left, then I opened up Celebration High School. In 2006, I started with the charter school and worked at Four Corners, PM Wells, and Canoe Creek. As a professional educator, I don't take a position as which one's better. I think that both programs focus on student achievement, taking the kids where they are and moving them forward. Their delivery systems are somewhat different, but the same result. And those results can be seen whether you take a look at the A's that Celebration has achieved over the years, or Four Corners has achieved over the years as well. And I think that last week, somebody mentioned the fact that, we're talking about bricks and mortar, but the important component to these schools has to be the leadership and the teachers that are involved in that. And the principal of a school has two functions. One is a school manager, that's taking care of the facilities and making all that stuff, and that is being an educational leader. And if you have a good educational leader and a person who students are going to be successful, as long as those people have fire in the belly for kids.
Thank you, John. Now, just so you all know, I've asked John Bushy a favor. John is a great man. John's one of the guys I've learned a ton from since I've been on the school board. I can't say enough positive about him. But I asked John, relative to that, if there was a charter school here and they were hiring a principal, would he sit in on the interviews? And he said he's willing to. I've asked Dr. Esposito to come up here. I passed around, there was not enough for everywhere. There's a charter application packets that I passed around, so you can take a look at the charter application process. Dr. Esposito is the gold standard for charter directors in the state of Florida. I've sat in on statewide meetings. Everybody from Palm Beach County, Dade County, Duval County, Hillsborough County, they're all asking her because she knows, and she is, I trust her 1,000%. Typically we get charter applications come to us and she'll deny some. And they'll call me and say, my staff is right, your staff is wrong. And I say to them, she's been right for 10 years in a row. Explain to me why you're right and she's wrong. And they never can give me an answer. And I just want her to speak for a minute about, she's got a flight, she's got to catch a flight. I want her to speak about the charter application process that anybody has to go through who does a charter school in Osceola County, and about Charter Schools USA, their performance. Please, Dr. Esposito.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much for having me here. I prepare a packet and I can make some more available to you. My card is there and I can pass around my business card, so if anybody would like to contact me. Really quickly, the statute provides for charter school applications, and what I have prepared is what we have in our website. I have included in there a timeline. And every charter application that is submitted to the school district goes through the same process. There is a review team. I have included the names of the review teams. We go through the application process and we ensure that that application meets statutory requirements. Only those applications that meet statutory requirements are the ones that are taken to the board for a recommendation of approval. We have our charter schools, you can see they are performing really well in our school district. We have a great relationship, and charter schools are not in isolation, and it's because the school district provides support. Nothing can be done in an island. So we work with them. There are different certain timelines that they have to meet, and I encourage you. I have included in the application the packet, the charter application that says draft, because that's a new charter application that's going to be approved by the state board on June 6th. So the new applicants for next year, that's the application they have to submit. And remember, charter applications are due August 1st of the following year. Charter schools can submit a draft, but that draft has to be submitted by May 1st. The school district provides feedback, and then the application that is submitted in August is final. That means no changes, no any other additional information can be added. I have included also in the packet the 17 charter schools that we have in operation in our school district, and I have included the performance of all those schools, including the performance of Charter Schools USA. Charter Schools USA at this point is one of 3 operators that we have in the school district. and the data reflects, the performance of all of the ESPs or EMOs that we have in our district at this time. If you have any questions, and I said I apologize, my sister is retiring tomorrow in Puerto Rico after 30 years of being a high school science teacher, so I have to be there for her. But if you have any questions, by all means, please, I have my card, there. Just shoot me an email, give me a call, and I'd be more than glad to sit down with you, explain to you what is the process that we have in Osceola County, how do we screen and evaluate these applications, and how we get to the point that we recommend to the board, only the ones that meet statutory requirements. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so you all know, I was the one who negotiated the contract with the school district and Charter Schools USA for Four Corners Charter School, and I made their there's management fees involved. I made their management fee predicated upon either raising the school grade by 1 grade or maintaining an A. It was a contentious negotiation between the CEO and myself. Neither of us really backed down, but we did what was right for kids, and they've opened up some other schools. They got a D, if you notice on this packet, at the Renaissance School in Point Siena. And the CEO and I had a very candid conversation. Became an A the following year. They know what they're doing with public education in Florida. They perform well in Osceola. The reason them specifically, they perform in Osceola, and before they took over Four Corners Charter School, one of the things that we took for granted was that charter schools couldn't get their financial reporting done in a timely manner accurately. So that was another criteria they had for their management fee. And ever since we've hired them, we haven't had one problem with their financial reporting in terms of accuracy and timeliness, which, you should be able to take for granted, but we weren't able to because of the poor performance from their predecessor. There are other, just before I go any further, before we take any more questions, would you be interested in scheduling a tour of a school they just built close by? And if you are, fine. If not, that's okay too.
We'll poll the voting members at the end of the meeting, and we'll let you know.
Okay, one last thing. We've got some representatives from Charter Schools USA. We've got a sitting principal right now. We've got the person in charge for development. Any questions about how they get financed, about how they build, about curriculum, about testing, they're here. I mean, any questions for anybody? Don't all jump up at once. No questions.
Members?
Okay, Clarence, you got any questions? No. Okay.
We do appreciate you coming. We will gather up questions and email them to Jay, and he'll share them with you, and then we can publish them for everybody.
Okay, you've got a long drive, so they got to go back to Fort Lauderdale. And Denise, there's a question.
Anybody in the audience? Yes, Leah?
You all know me. Leah Carey is 1049 Nash Drive. I just want to put a few things on the record. Thank you, Charter USA, for coming, but can you disclose how much campaign financing you've given Jay on his last election?
I'll tell you.
Yes.
$1,000.
No, it's over $4,150 from Charter USA's, their employees, or even, I don't even know about their contracting.
The same employees.
That's how you listed it in your things. I'm not going to argue with you, Jay. And I know, Dr. Esposito, we met and talked. Is this a fair statement? In the climate that this state operates their public education, is it more favorable for charters to move forward than, is it easier for charters to move forward than states that have a little stricter? I don't know, I'm asking this, I'm not an attorney, but with the processes you showed me, if they meet all of your criteria, that the board really has no reason to object, unless they'll sue, and then it's all attorneys.
Charter friendly.
We are very charter friendly.
We've tried in the past to challenge some of it as unconstitutional, and we fail.
Yeah.
Because we believe local control has been taken away somewhat by the.
Yes, and I'll agree with that as well.
We're very friendly. I think Osceola County has been friendly to charters in large part for financial necessity because the state has failed to adequately.
Exactly. We're terribly underfunded, and we have a growth problem. And that leads to my next question. The 2018 deadline that you're talking about, why do we have that deadline? Or is Island Village going to come into play before 2018, by the fall of 2018?
Based on,
2016.
No, 18.
based on our schedule for selling and the development building, first residents with children would come in around August or September of 2018.
So you're talking about the very first people with just a few houses sold, and maybe
First
we're
phase would
talking,
probably be 100 homes.
yeah, so, I mean, we're really not, we can absorb those, right, the first wave? So the only pressure from 2018 is what you've got to relieve, not what we have to relieve. Is that a fair statement?
I
Okay.
think so.
that-
I think so.
That was it?
Yeah.
That was it?
I believe Dr. Esposito.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
please.
She had a comment.
I want to
And all
address,
I wanted to address is that you're correct, the laws are different, different states have different laws. So you cannot compare the process in Florida with the process in California, even authorizers are different. In many different states, you have a state authorizer, and in Florida, it's a school district. And then when we talk about charter friendly, it's because we have a transparent process, and that's what they use that term. There are a lot of districts that use, the statute doesn't describe the process. I could say very probably that Osceola has a very transparent process, so everybody knows our expectations. I have an orientation that I have usually in April, and I explain to them, this is what we expect from you, so there's no surprises, and everything is on the table. And then what we do is we treat every applicant the same way, and we take them through the same process. But again, the laws are a little.
Sure.
You did have
Dr.
charter
Hey,
in
Leah?
county.
Okay.
Leah, hold on. No, the camera can't hear your conversation. We may have, that was an important answer. We may have to send
Want-
that
wanna
one to
bring it
you
up?
and have it answered so that we can distribute the answer to everybody.
two more, real quick.
We're at 25 minutes.
Okay, real quick, number one, I raised more money from Celebration residents than from any other vendor in my last two campaigns. That's number one. Number two, Celebration, Charter Schools USA, along with some other charter operators, are also supporters of Celebration High School. They've written checks to Celebration High School. I'll make that clear also. So with that said, Tom, thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for keeping it
And
brief.
I assume there's no other questions, or you're not allowing any more questions, which is up to you.
I mean, Cookie, I mean, if it's brief, but again, if it's, yeah, please.
Very brief, and
Okay.
it's just a point of
You could you please come up? Yeah,
Cookie,
we can't hear
come
you.
on up.
Come on. And I'll even adjust this.
91 Front Street. Okay, my question is that when we're talking about, okay, Island Village, the residents are not moving in, and they're not attending the school, but I don't think that's the triggering event for this process to move forward. I think the triggering event is Disney's development contract, which needs to have an agreement in place. Is that not correct?
There are two issues. One is the expiration of the agreement.
Speak up.
Right.
One is the expiration of the agreement in June of 2016.
Right.
Then the capacity issue occurs
Mm-hmm.
in August of 2018. It begins to occur in August of 2018.
But
Right.
if the gentleman will yield, we've heard last time that that expiration of that agreement wasn't coupled with this.
No.
Doesn't have to be.
So it doesn't have to be so.
Yeah.
They're not
If-
joined.
If we could just get that agreement re-signed up, I think.
I think from the district, and I can only speak for myself, but I have talked to other people in the district, Mr. Phelps, and I don't see, there's no intention on our part. I came because all I've heard is a bunch of stuff it's so bizarre, I don't know why anybody would think something.
Mondo bizarre.
So, that'd be one of them. Oh, as soon as that agreement's done, you're going to ship all of our students out.
That's right.
Somewhere there's some common sense prevails. So we don't do that at any school. If you live next door to the school, you probably go there if you want to.
But-
So I don't think the intent, the agreements work for us, it's worked for Celebration. I think it's something, I mean, if it expires in May, June, whenever it expires, I don't believe there's a reason, if that's part of causing some of this angst, that we can't go ahead and look into that and renew it. I mean, we don't have to wait till May. If we could have the discussion.
That would be-
I can't, I'm one of the 5 votes. I can't tell you it'll get renewed or not, but I can tell you that I've had discussion with staff, and they're willing to, they've said the agreement works, no issues with it.
Fabulous.
There's not this driving thing to kill it.
That would be a wonderful holiday present.
Thank you very much.
A little happy dance.
Yeah, there's never been an objection to that.
Okay,
So,
thank you,
Thank
Cookie.
you all.
Thank you for that.
And Tom, thank you for letting me have the floor, and I will just say, Charter Schools USA folks, Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, Tom.
Bill? Belay? You got to come up.
Can you come up? We have like 5 or 6 viewers or 100 viewers. I don't know.
Oh, no, yeah, there's no punitive.
Bill Pillay of 1411 Celebration Avenue. Is it common practice for the Osceola School District to take the initiative to seek for-profit companies to alleviate overcrowding?
I'll answer that.
Okay.
No, this is a unique circumstance.
Oh, okay.
This is a unique, we've got a limited amount of land, we've got a limited amount of money, and we've got to look for solutions. The question isn't where does the solution come from as much as what is the solution? If there was more land, more money, a better operator, a better option, I'm open to it. But right now, with the resources available, as I said, you all can discuss a million different options. And I hope you come up with other viable options. I really do.
I think we will.
But with that, and I hope you do, Tom, but there's no bulletproof glass. But I do hope.
Sure looks like it. I'm just
I
saying.
I do hope, though, you know, but regardless what you come up with or not, unless something changes, it's on us and our colleagues to get something across the finish line.
And I understand that, but I do want to go ahead and make a point. Those aren't the only solutions we're looking at. There are other solutions which we want to
We're
go
ready
ahead and move forward.
We're ready to call time on this one.
Right.
Okay. Jay, thank you very much. Thank you, charter schools. Thank you, audience. We're going to move on. So, as I said at the beginning, we've got 10 options, maybe 11 or 12 by the time we finish here. We've got to make some progress on the ones that we haven't considered yet. So we've been through 4 now with this presentation. It's time to get to the other ones. So, number 5 was the idea of building a parochial school in Celebration, in Island Village or someplace else in Celebration. So, Jeff, I know that you can't speak for the diocese, but any other news or givens or pros and cons?
So let's talk about the pros and cons, and
Yep.
then I can talk a little bit about the conversations we've had. So first of all, I think it's another option that creates capacity, which I think we all have an interest in. So we want to talk about capacity improvement.
No, no,
They
right
have
there. Do you mind if we move over there?
Yeah. By all means, yeah. They have a proven track record of performance, and I think that, certainly the sense of the church in town and of the diocese is that there's probably a sufficient base here in Celebration and in the area to fill a school. In fact, they said that is not even a consideration, that they feel strongly that we would fill a school here. So, it's viable from that perspective. The con on that is it's a funding issue, just like the board has. No one has an extra, their estimate is probably close to yours for K-8, $25 million is kind of the ballpark number. It takes time to raise the financial commitments for that. Some of that would come from parishioners, some from outside. So timing is a bit of an issue. And one thing I do want to say, even outside of this, is before we leave tonight, and Pat, thanks for initiating that, we should really have a conversation around the 80-20 thing, because I think it's got everyone in town, even TCC from our conversations, there's some concerns around that. Yeah. Timing really limits us in being creative here and coming up with viable options. So not that we want to procrastinate and not make decisions, but we also don't want to be put in a corner where we're not making the best decision. So timing is an issue in terms of the cons. The county would benefit because if we were able to accomplish this, the board still has impact fees that can be used to expand again outside of the celebration community. Parochial school, but in a private school, something that's a different valued, higher end, higher level of education is actually a value added to us. There are people who don't choose Celebration because that isn't an option for them. I think there are people who, private school or homeschool their kids that are pushed to outside private schools that are all, beneficial to owners. So I think it's something that, for those of you who want to use the term low property values and things, it actually enhances property value.
Mm-hmm. So let's make sure Susan's catching all these. So that one could be summarized as it's more options.
Mm-hmm. I have a question regarding that, and this is more to anybody from the county. When the school board is looking at, and the school administration is looking at numbers in terms of student stations, do you consider student stations as part of like private schools or parochial schools? Okay, that was my question.
So,
No, but it's, ultimately, it's got the impact.
I understand. I was trying to, as we're going through this.
We're obligated to provide them.
To keep this in mind, like students who don't attend our schools, I'm going to give you a real example. Homeschool moms and dads, okay? Homeschool moms and dads pay taxes. And they say, okay, we want books, resources for our sons and daughters, et cetera. Well, if their son, even though they may be paid $20,000 a year in taxes, if their son or daughter is not sitting at a desk in one of our schools, in Florida, we don't get any money. The money doesn't follow that student. So that money goes in the general fund. I don't know, the state can use the money, but so there aren't resources for those students who don't attend those schools.
I think that I would agree with Jay, but by the same token, we're hearing that what we're getting for funding isn't sufficient to put that child in the desk anyway. So really,
Well, it's,
net.
you're talking, there's capital and operating dollars. The operating dollars is what it's not enough, you're right, but we get the money for
Fair
the
enough,
student.
yeah.
Capital dollars is way more.
And that leads me to kind of the last point I had, at least on this. It was, from the cons, it's an out-of-pocket expense. Parents are still contributing more, for private education, whether it's private school or parochial.
Okay. Other task force members, did you have any pros and cons for this one?
I
Jeff,
guess the only thing is that it still may not affect how the Island Village is ultimately zoned because you still have the same number of seats.
Yeah. Jeff, I know you haven't fully talked this through with the parish, but is it a K through 8 that they're talking about?
I think ideally that's what they
Okay.
would like, yeah. Again, it's a funding issue. Certainly, if the parish had the land, there'd be a school probably on the site now, but that's an issue as well.
Okay. Any insights from anybody else on a parochial school? Yes, ma'am?
My name is Naomi Santiago, 1652 Bragg Drive. I am currently a parent of a child at Celebration K-8. This is his first year ever attending a public school. Since the age of 3, he's been at a parochial school. So I've been able to compare. The one thing I can say as a con with the parochial school, as much as I'd welcome that, is that it is faith-based, and that's going to limit the number of people that are going to want to attend. So you're going to be limited in that aspect.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So that could be either, depending who you are, a pro or a con.
I think this is not directly related to parochial schools, but I am interested in the question of timing, especially as a parochial school may take longer to come into being. If we're talking about in August 2018, possibly, were you saying about 24 students coming online that year?
It's if we're talking 100 new residences, and we use I'm going to call it the potato math, I don't want to be insulting, but the ballpark math of 0.25, that's 25 students. Right. That's year one. Year two, pardon me, that's actually 2018. So 2019, how many more units will we be talking about, Tom?
Typically,
Sorry.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, probably their development phases are probably a couple hundred units a year.
Okay.
So
we actually
they're-
have capacity within the K-8 right now for a long time to absorb
Right.
the growth of Island Village, so we could take our time over discussing and thinking about these options in the future. Right.
Todd, not to put words in your mouth, but you don't need a building built. You need a plan and an agreement with the developer in order to sell the property.
What we went into this with staff was to make sure that we understood where capacity was going to be for the build-out of Island Village and the build-out of Celebration. So this is future ultimate capacity that we're planning for.
Okay. All right. Move on to number 6. This is the idea of building a K through 8 in Island Village. It was one of the options that the Celebration Company explored. Maybe start out with what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, Todd?
There were some potential contract purchasers that were interested in a standalone school in Island Village for various reasons. Obviously, marketing was one. To have a K-8 school in your neighborhood is attractive. But the more we studied it, the more we talked with the school district, the concern about dividing the community, providing same grade level options in the community felt like it was creating an us versus them, or a division in the community, and it didn't seem like that made sense. Also, the amount of land and the capital investment was prohibitive for both us, the developer, and the school district. We even looked at doing this as an EFBD, and the financial models wouldn't support that funding with just Island Village and with the county's ability to contribute the difference. It was too much for even under that model.
So that would be a taxing district for only the units in Island Village?
Correct.
Okay.
There's not enough units.
Yeah, I think we reviewed that in the last
Yep.
meeting.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just as a point of clarification, how big is the school site at the moment being designated in Island Village?
Well, there's not a school site designated in the current Island Village plan. What is shown is a recreation area, roughly 10 to 15 acres. And when we worked with the school district staff, their architects put together site plans that showed, I think we did a K-8 and then we did middle, right? There was a middle school that was done on roughly 16 acres.
Okay.
Excuse me? 16 acres. It was very tight.
For middle?
Yes.
And what is it?
And that was
Yeah,
off-site
one at a time.
retention.
Bill, hold on, everybody.
If we
Bill?
were to use
Correct.
that 10 to 15 acres to build a school, would there be other land in Island Village for recreation pools and stuff?
The way that the site plan was put together, there are areas for traditional type celebration recreation, the village type recreation, a pool, a play area. But what we were trying to solve on Island Village was the more community-wide recreation in addition to that. There also is some civic parcels as well, so the ability to develop a small faith-based or parochial school, not to the level of, but that still is an option as a choice, not as a capacities driver.
Okay. Alex?
Real quick, if we mention
Alex,
dividing...
come on up.
I want to go up there. Alex, curious, if we're mentioning dividing the community, I think it's important to put those under all the options unless we're not putting that on. So it would be, whenever we build a new school with the same grade, I think that minus needs to be put under every category, just to keep it.
That's a good point.
And busing probably as well.
Yeah. Anybody else on this one?
Building in K-8 and Island Villages, safety is a positive.
As compared to Plan A?
Is compared to Plan A.
Yes, sir.
If there was the money in the land, a K-8 in Island Village would be awesome. I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, it's proven out to be here, but again, it comes down to the resources that are at hand.
Yeah.
When you say cost, isn't it? The cost is the negative.
If we were gonna do that though, wouldn't we just go back to plan number 3, which is building a middle school? That way you're not dividing the community, you're having a standalone school, you're spending the same amount of money anyway. So I feel like the option 6 is divisive, and we might as well go back to option 3.
Because I think what you get in option 3 are the elevated course offerings with the right size, a full-size middle.
But in fairness, a K-8 school, and I think a positive, Rose, I think a real positive is you're getting healthy competition. When you got 2 high-performing schools in the same community, I don't see that as divisive. I see, and you're getting more amenities. I see that as a really good thing.
But wouldn't they be zoned though for their own schools? So there would be no means for competition, is that?
Sure, there's, are you kidding me?
Well-
There's
No, I mean, if you're
schools
zoned for that
compete against each
school.
other all the time. That's what.
You know, this is a really interesting question. You know, is Celebration big enough to have that?
We bring kids, it wouldn't just be.
You know, I mean, but the town's feel. And the reason that we're going through all of these is that we're going to find pros and cons and back and forth as we go through these, and then we're going to go through them again and shortlist everything. But in the end, we may come up, the solution that we end up recommending might be the most pros, it'd be a combination of options with the most advantages and the fewest disadvantages. So this is all healthy as long as we can do it in a constructive way.
As long as the resources are there.
Well, it's a fair point, Jay, but the task of this task force is to make a recommendation. There are others who are going to have to follow up, like you and the Celebration Company and CROA. We will make we're not going to make just a pie-in-the-sky recommendation. We're going to try and come up with something that's doable. But we're going to hand you something that then still needs more work. So, I mean, we've got 7 meetings. We'll be done with our task. Thank you for coming. January 4th. So we're going to try and solve as much as we can. But we got to get to a recommendation, not a final solution. Sorry. Steve?
Question on the Island Village building at the school. Is it, we're talking on the 10 to 15 acres, right? So would you build the school, does that leave any land at all to have any type of recreational facilities at that piece of land?
It would remove the
Well,
recreation facility.
sorry, Steve, I didn't finish my point. I lost my train of thought. No, and this might answer it. We may recommend something that requires a little bit more give from the Celebration Company. A little bit more land, a little bit more money, a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more something. Now, we're not going to say, okay, Mr. Developer, you got to solve our whole problem for us. But, so the constraints that you're feeling are correct today. They might not be in January.
I hope you are.
Well, I have no, again, I've said this 3 or 4 times, it's presumptuous of me to say that. But if this problem is going to get solved, it might not be on 10 acres and $12 million.
And Tom, you and I have had this conversation. If there is more money and more land, the calculus changes exponentially, and you're not going to find a more open individual or collegial body than the school board. Right now, based on the resources available, I'm dealing with what is, not what is not.
Well, you know what, that's been the most encouraging part of this whole process so far in 4 weeks, is our meeting with staff, very open to ideas. You guys coming and participating, very open to ideas, fantastic. The conversations that we've had with Celebration Company so far they're not going to open up their checkbook, until they have to, until they absolutely have to. But they're not saying no, they're here. Todd's participating. I mean, he's taken a couple of body shots and he keeps coming back, so.
I'm used to it.
So
Yeah,
just
Been doing this a while.
a question for Todd that kind of relates to some of the cons that might appear on here. And to your point, Jay, around the constraints, financial and land. So Todd, I heard you say earlier that when you evaluated the site, the developer wasn't in favor of separating the community.
Different developers have different opinions,
So
but yeah.
the one that we're most intrigued by today
Has that concern.
has that concern.
Yes.
So, when we talk about the financial constraints, ultimately, those are the purse strings that matter most. Because, without a buyer, none of this happens.
Right.
So it seems to me that one of the things we should be talking about here as we're weighing our options is a constraint is the developer may not and probably will not be on side with a divisive approach. Yeah, so, so as we're weighing this out and talking about whether it's, another K-8, another, K-5, a charter school, none of those may be viable options simply because. So we might skew us more toward a middle school solution, for example. So I think we should capture that, if that's the case.
Yeah. I know Susan's listening. It's hard to capture sound bites. Okay, anything else on the K through 8? Okay, option 7 was basically the same thing, but a K through 5 in Island Village. Same questions back to you, Todd. What's the history? What did you like, what didn't you like?
We did look at that towards the end. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember a plan that was generated specifically for that one. I think the concern there was similar in that it replicated grade levels, and it caused a substantive change to the K-8 downtown in that it became essentially a middle school with a very small K-5 attached. And so you had the same issues as a K-8 in Island Village, And then you had potentially more operational issues with busing and redistricting existing Celebration residents to a K-5 in Island Village. So it seemed actually more disruptive.
I'll be brief. This for Clarence's benefit. You've all heard me say it, but Clarence hasn't heard it. Before Thanksgiving, I was on a conference call with, Todd, you were on that call.
I was not.
Were you on that call?
No, I was not.
Okay, with representative from the Celebration Company and the school district. And on that call, I made it, after talking to Clyde Wells, I made it clear, if we could get another 5 acres and $7.5 million more, we would do a traditional K-5 school. Now, in my opinion, and I said that because you weren't aware, I couldn't tell you that until then. And to that end, I still, even if we built a K-5 in Island Village, I still wouldn't change the Celebration K-8 school from what it is now and where it is. This school works beautifully. This school is a shining star as far as public education, and I wouldn't support changing it. Now, with that said, with a K-5 school in Island Village, the Island Village students who are K-5 who are in that attendance zone go there, and we would bring kids in from outside Celebration to fill the school, because we've got needs beyond Celebration, and a new school would be a good thing for us. So that conversation was had. There hasn't been, oh yeah, we're going to do it, oh no, we're not going to do it, but that conversation has happened, and that's out there. And I got my numbers, the 5 acres and the $7.5 million, from a conversation with Clyde Wells prior to getting on that call.
But I think the issue was solving the middle school gap, is that the middle school kids from Island Village would have to go somewhere and.
They come here.
They go to K through 8?
Yeah, they go to K-8.
More of the
I don't know that
K
there
through
was-
5
there's
kids
no
would be filled
space.
there.
Well,
There's plenty of space for the middle school. We can fit up to another 300 kids.
No, there's not that, but anyways, Todd, but that's a great point. That's why
Our
we have to
understanding
take
was,
the extra
yeah.
money and extra land for a K-8, that's what I mean, so,
Yeah.
get back to that, in case you were wondering.
What did you say?
The K-5
I'll put that request
in
in.
Island Village does not resolve the middle school capacity concern.
Oh,
Yes, a K-8 works in Island Village to solve the capacity concerns, but not a K-5.
A K-8,
Yeah.
And that's why, Todd, I think we talked
Yeah.
about it, and then we ended up dismissing it because it didn't resolve our middle school capacity concerns.
When we're talking
Well, it's cheaper
capacity
than a
concerns,
K-8.
sorry. When we're talking capacity concerns, we're talking about full build-out capacity concerns, near term, like 2018,
Full-
19?
Full build-out and
Full build-out?
keeping in mind our capacity concerns outside of celebration.
course.
Then that's why it would not resolve our concerns with middle school.
Is that what you meant, Todd, that it would change the character of this school? It'd become more of a middle school?
Yes, because there is middle school capacity. Understood that there is no capacity here, so there'd be some rebalancing.
Any insights on this one from the audience?
Any pros?
Well, the advantages are it's less land and less money.
It's affordable.
You could do public, you could do a
It's more
public school. Yeah. It wouldn't have to be a charter, you could afford a public school, right?
If we had 5 more acres and $7.5 million.
No, for K through 5.
Yeah,
You
but
still
still,
need
With 5 acres and $7.5
Okay,
million.
what are the, I'm sorry, what are the state requirements for K through 5 acreage?
They don't give a specific, they give a range, typically 15 acres.
What's the minimum you've ever seen?
We have a 10 acre.
You have a 10 acre, okay.
Actually, it's a community school, it's K-8 right now, but it was constructed as an elementary school. And it was not.
So it could fit.
But it's got some issues with the space.
Right.
With the landlocked space too, though, so it's not
And then
ours.
Sure.
you think it's 20 million? Okay.
But you could squeeze it in, possibly, with wonderful architects.
Not willingly.
Not these days.
Possible.
Yeah,
You hate to
got it.
spend money on something that's just creative.
No, that's,
Exactly.
Can I ask a question? I'm not sure who to direct this to, but we talk about the difference between the public system and how much land we need to build an appropriate school that's not congested. Why is that okay for a charter school? In the
And
same-
charter schools don't have to play by the same.
But if the same rules of the quality of education for our children.
Okay, this is a state, and it's a good question. I'm not a legislator, but I'll answer the question. Public schools have to comply with SREP. school requirements for educational facilities. It's the state statute for K-5, K-8, middle schools, high schools, et cetera. And there are procurement rules, there are structural rules, there's a number of pieces. So, however, charter schools, from a construction perspective, they don't have to they don't have to build to the same standard, which is not a poor standard.
Yeah.
They built a building standard, just like our kids sleep in our houses built a building standards. They're not unsafe. And they don't have to have as much land. They don't have to go through the same procurement rules. For instance, a charter school doesn't necessarily have to do an RFQ or RFP for construction. They've got a company that's worked well with them. They can fit it on a smaller piece of land, and so they can do it, and they're building good schools.
So Jay, I get the whole issue around the cost and operating model, like, it's, private versus public. But when it comes to the footprint.
They also don't have to build all of the buildings that we.
So, because I heard things like,
It's not just the
we would
building
want a
codes,
gym.
it's also the
Like a gym
structures.
to me seems as basic as
They don't
it
have
possibly.
to-
So they don't have to have gyms. They
That's
have to
why-
have cafeterias, like, are we talking?
Cafeteria, they could have warming, typically, a lot of them have warming kitchens. They don't have full kitchens, but they don't necessarily have labs and media centers, but when they built this high school, I believe in equity. I believe that if a kid goes to school, he or she should be able to be in band, be in sports, be in whatever, and that's why, I am pro, as I said, good schools, and that's why I asked them when they built that high school, I want these kids to have a full experience. But they don't have to. There's high schools in this county that don't.
And the reason I'm asking for that clarification is as we're going through and evaluating things like a K-5 or a K-8, it's a public school that has those standards that I think we all subscribe to as being better. So it's something I think we need to weigh in our
I think
decision.
some are, in my opinion, requirements from the state that cost too much money, that they don't fund, and probably don't add to the quality of education, but it's a requirement we've got to play by the rules.
Some questions I might have, and I don't know if we have any information at our fingertips, is in terms of, I'm not sure of the benefits that they provide to educators. I'm not sure of what their standards are when they're vetting faculty, and that would have a huge impact on who they're recruiting, and that would have a huge impact on.
Well, should we ask, let's submit that as a question to both Dr. Esposito and the charter folks.
I have a question with regards to the structure too. With building a charter school, I'm going to backtrack. With building a public school, our K-8 and our high school are also used as our emergency shelters.
They're hardened facilities.
So if in an event we have a hurricane, we have some type of a disaster, the reason why it is built to the specs that they are is because the state also relies upon them as a safety facility. So I guess my concern with that would be in Island Village, they would not have that
But
if
in
we were to build
fairness,
something.
Vanessa, people don't go to, people who come to, say, Celebration High School as a hardened facility, they're coming from Brevard, or they're coming from the coast. If there was something here, we wouldn't go to a school here. We would go someplace out of the area because we want to avoid the weather event.
So,
Wait a minute, one at a time here.
The facilities are used by the people coming down.
Let's clarify this question so we can answer it. Your question is, would the charter school be required to be a shelter?
Correct.
Okay.
It would not be required.
We'll
to
get
be
an
a
answer.
shelter.
The answer is no. Okay. Leah and then Tom?
Well, that was just,
Okay.
because when we were on the first task force for all of this was our question too. Because, and I think that needs to be added to, because, I don't know, me and all my friends, we tell our kids, if there's a hurricane, you stay at the school, I'm coming to you.
Okay.
And that's our safe place to go.
So
And they know that, they've been taught that from day one.
Okay.
And so anything that's not, I think, should
All
be
right.
a.
Good point.
I do have one question. Can we stick to where right now I think K-5 in Island Village, because we keep being pulled back into charter school?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
I mean, later on, if we have time at the end, we can talk about that.
I think we will, and it'll be helpful. Thanks. Okay.
I mean, I've got to run, excuse myself, I've got a problem.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank
We will,
you very, very
we will
much.
follow up with you on
I would love,
on the
I
agreement.
assume somebody's typing all that up?
Yeah, I'll be getting that too.
Of the 9 options or whatever you
Right,
have.
I'll have all that for you.
We will.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Okay.
A positive for the K through 5 is proximity to the
Oh,
homes.
that's a good point.
It's a positive under 7, sorry. Is
Actually,
proximity.
both, it would be for
Right.
both of them, set for the K-5 and the K-8, wouldn't it?
Yes.
The walking distance for the
Yeah,
residents.
yeah, because I know when my kids went to the K through 12, which became the K through 8, and I hope will stay at K through 8, not K through 5, that was invaluable to me raising 4 children, 3 who want one. And also, Suzanne, I apologize, but the safety, this was actually a positive under 6 and 7. It wasn't a negative for, it's a negative for 1, but it's a positive for 6 and 7 as safety, because they would be in a safer traffic environment area than the expansion, if that's okay to add to this.
Yeah, I have that.
But they may already be there, sorry. Okay.
Okay, number 8. Mr. Wheeler, we're going to need your help with this one. So let me set it up. We added this one last time, and Jay brought us this idea. But maybe a question right off the bat. This means all the improvements would be off campus someplace else.
Well, let me just, you talk about the joint school right now?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Maybe describe what it is.
It could be a K-5, K-8, middle school, high school, et cetera. The problem that I see with this is just the geography. The geography is not close enough to Orange County. I mean, they want something pretty much, they want something at 429 and 182. And that's what, and according to Leonard. No, well, you didn't want to show me that the land was available, so you're guilty of that. But no, the point is, I think if Orange County somehow annexed a bunch of land up to Celebration, I think it would be an attractive option for them, but the geography just doesn't work. And in fairness, they need high school student stations. That's what they've got an appetite for. I'm talking to Pam Gould, who is my counterpart, who represents Orange County just over the border from Osceola. So, I mean, if we could somehow convince Orange County to fund 25% or to build a school, and the state funds 25% in Celebration, it'd be great, but I just
So
don't
this
see
is
that here.
too unlikely to even
very-
consider?
the geography just
Okay,
doesn't work.
let's just scratch this one.
It's gone.
Okay. So, number 9 is some combination of the best parts of all the other ones and not the cons. I mean, you think about it, and this is we need some creative brainstorming here. The idea of the 851 building has come up. The idea, and I can't speak for them, but the idea of Stetson has come up. The idea of a small improvement on the K through 8 site, and we got to find the tipping point before it creates safety issues. And maybe that tipping, maybe we're already at it, but maybe there's some expansion that can create a little bit of a Band-Aid now, a little bit of expansion at the K-12 and a parochial school and an 851 building and a Stetson that solves the math problem.
Tom, can you elaborate on the Stetson?
I can't. Maybe an expert from the audience?
I did
Anybody?
talk to Mike Medici, who was one of the directors at Stetson. That, of course, would require, I'm sure, a lot more conversations. But if we're talking about combinations, if I could.
Sure.
And I will direct this to you. Is there a possibility, since the district has some funding for K through 5 now, of getting enough land that additional funding could expand it at a later, future date down the road when they have another budget?
That's,
Refresh, say that again.
Okay, so what I'm saying is
Yeah.
pay attention, what we do is have.
I'm trying to.
A public K through 5 built in island villages with Disney giving us some grace possibility in land where down the road you could expand it to a K through 8. Is that, it's just that it's.
If there's more, first off, the issue with phasing these schools is, you first have to build your core. You gotta build your cafeteria, you gotta build your media center, you gotta build your admin space.
But you need that for a K through 5 anyway, yeah.
Agreed, however, you're
Size.
talking about building something for expandable use, so your initial expense for your core will be more than would be just for K-5.
Absolutely.
So, and there is not, yeah, I mean, if somebody, I don't care if it's the developer, the current owner, an anonymous person, if somebody donates more money, more land, everything's on the table.
Okay, but if we had more land, do you have enough to build a K through 5 public school?
No.
Yeah, okay, how much are you like?
$7.5 million.
$7.5 million?
At least that.
Because I know you had a
At
huge.
least that, so we're making time.
$7.5 million, and that is what budget, through what budget year?
Oh, that's in today's dollars.
No, does that go through
It's
2016
capital.
end, or is that in the 2017 budget? What,
Well, once we've got the commitment for the capital with the impact fees, then we'll start planning. We're not gonna plan something until we know we can encumber the funds to actually get it across the finish line.
I understand.
So to your point, I can't tell you when that, once we've got that commitment, then we can start our process, but we're not gonna start the process until we know the commitment's
I
there.
understand, could this be in the 3-year plan, a K through 5? Tom's saying no, okay, I just wanted to ask, okay.
It was a good hypothesis, but I don't see it.
That's why.
Tom, I can't hear you.
The funds that we'll generate through impact fees, you know, we have needs throughout the district. And, you know, we're in a unique situation where we have an option where a developer is willing to upfront, you know, a significant amount of money, which would enable us to accomplish our concerns for growth within Celebration and outside of Celebration. You know, it's not to be said that the developer would or would not continue to do, you know, I guess, upfront that money if we were to build our school somewhere else. But even if they were to do it, and it were to be our school, we don't have the resources available at this point to make up the difference to make it our own school. So that's why we as staff keep coming back to option one because of the capacity and also the funds that are currently available. And I wouldn't expect all of you to know, but on the east side of the county, we're going to have some concerns that we need to address as well. And the impact fee monies that we would generate are going to have to help with that as well.
And as we keep going through every option, I just feel like we keep coming back to the same thing, the middle school. And that we are just not gonna have, we're trying to shoehorn a middle school somewhere. And so I just keep going back to.
Yeah. So Rebecca and then the audience.
I have a couple of thoughts, and this is not any kind of a plan that I'm suggesting at this point, but I would really like to see the 80-20 resolution resolved before any decision is taken. I think it's.
I asked the attorney, we're going to bring it on the agenda first meeting in February.
I think if we can sort that out, first of all.
We're going to work that out.
Then I think we need to look again at the numbers, and that's because we have 1,189 Celebration resident students in the K-8 right now. And if we had calculated that, that's right, we have 1,300 in total, but 1,189 are Celebration residents. And if we had calculated that number on the 0.25 multiplier or whatever it was, it should have been 1,450. So we're already slightly under what we should be on national projections anyway. But right now, we have roughly 150 to 180 spaces in the K-8. We're not in an emergency situation. Even if Island Village comes online in August 18 and 19, and obviously a plan's going to be in place by then, we are not rushing to make a decision here on what is right for Celebration students. The impact problem right now is in other areas, as you say. It's in the east of the district, it's in the K-8, it's in Westside K-8 area. So I would like to start to separate out some of these issues, because I'm not sure that a one-size-fits-all solution should be rushed through at this point. I think we need to think about it more slowly, and we need to learn about some of the other options. For example, maybe we need to be planning on revamping what kinds of facilities, because we have facilities challenges at the K-8 right now anyway. Maybe we need to be planning for building and looking at some of our own middle school provisions, because really, honestly, in a K-8 middle school, we should be able to offer art in the middle school. We should be able to do that. We need to do that, and maybe we need to tie Island Village projections, which I believe right now are not that high, but would be able to be fitted in with some combination of building within Celebration to accommodate Island Village students. I'm not talking about the total build-out, because I'm really not sure when that is happening in terms of the phasing. I mean, it seems to me the excess 1,000 houses that are going to be between Island Village and the total build-out of Celebration are going to be numerous years apart, perhaps even a decade apart. Could be, right. So I think we need to think about that issue right now and think about doing a moderate part of building and look at that impact fee potentially going to build on, rebuild a portables aspect of another school in the district which is having these issues. And you said yourself, you've got schools like Gateway and Poinciana.
But you have to understand that what the developer will upfront for us, we can't use, we really can't use some of it.
Speak up, please.
Yes, what
Yeah,
the developer
the
will
mic
give
doesn't
us
matter.
is to be used, within the community.
Could you move it closer, Tom? I'm
This-
sorry.
No, the microphone, there's no speakers here.
It's not on jack.
It's all just,
So is that true? Can we get some clarity on that?
Yeah,
The developer,
The money that the developer will upfront for impact fee is for, basically for growth within Celebration, and it'll allow us to accomplish what we need to outside of Celebration as well.
can we split that money into two pots and accomplish what we need to do in Celebration and the remainder
That
of
would
the
be up to the
balance?
developer, but I don't.
Well, that's an
I don't
interesting
see it.
question.
Rebecca, you're wanting a moderate number one then?
I
You're
want to-
wanting us to expand on our K-8 to accommodate
I think that's
only
one
Island
option.
Village?
I think that's one option where we think about our K-8 and a moderate.
So that would be under number 9, is
Yeah.
our kind of out-of-the-box thinking.
That's one option. Of course, I think we need to look again at middle school sites and land for those as well.
We'll come back to that. Now, let's just be one at a time here. Debbie, what's on your mind?
I had two questions. Tom, to you, the amount you're getting from TCC, if this current developer closes, is 12.3 million?
That's correct.
Okay.
If we take it up.
Yeah. And I have a question for you. If we go with another option that doesn't include a full school or up to 1,000 student stations, what does that do to your closing? Because I know it fell through before.
Yeah.
For other, yeah.
If we have, as long as we have an agreement with the school district on a plan forward that isn't divisive, that
Where the kids
doesn't
can go in
separate the
Celebration,
community,
right?
I think most developers would consider that.
Is the developer
To move
opposed to a school in their area?
The ones that we're talking to now are concerned about a school on Island Village if it replicates grade levels, meaning it could potentially.
Well, we've got K through 12, so what grade levels are they comfortable with? I mean,
You
we have
understand what
a
I'm
K
saying?
through 8 and we have a 9 through 12, so what grade
Correct,
levels?
so if we had, if you were expanding the K-8 downtown, there would only be one grade level at each grade.
No, I'm not talking about expanding, I'm talking about
I know, but
doing, yeah, okay.
So, but if you were gonna build a K-5 on Island Village, and you
Right.
have a K-8 downtown,
Right,
that's a concern.
okay.
That's a
Right.
concern.
Okay.
If you rebalance the K-8 and the high school
Right.
to a K-5 and 6-12,
Right.
that seems to be acceptable.
So they
Or
want-
if you did option
Okay,
3 with a
They don't wanna
middle school.
duplicate.
Is there any option that keeps our K-8 intact that the developer will
One.
suffice? Just expanding up to 1,000 students on?
What about expanding to 200? Just expand.
Okay.
One or a combination of.
Okay,
combination,
we've got
okay.
audience member who's very patient. Please.
Sorry, Eileen. Thank you, Eileen.
Eileen Barr, 1138 Mosaic. I'm a little confused about the impact fees outside of Celebration. I mean, if you drive around Osceola, you see a huge amount of new constructions going on. So you would think that, and, you know, maybe I'm just totally naive about this, that there's just, going to be a huge income stream coming in over the next couple of years. I mean, yes.
You're right. It's a great point. That's how we're building a new high school right now. We're encumbering that $70 million to build a new high school right now from that income stream that you're referencing right now. So that's where that money is going. The 3,000 student station high school that is coming out of the ground. It's in planning right now. We've chosen a construction company. We've hired an architect. That's where that money is going.
Okay. Is any of it going to be diverted into some construction or the expansion of?
$70 million is a lot of money.
I know, but, I mean, what I keep hearing is that the need is on a primary level and on the,
The
you
need
know.
is at every level, K-12. We're talking about the need here right now, but high school is at a critical mass in this county. I mean, you know, I appreciate what people are thinking about here, but I don't have the luxury of thinking just in terms of celebration.
Right.
I gotta think countywide, and high schools, we need high school student stations desperately.
But we also need primary care.
We do, but not as desperately as we need high
Eddie.
school student stations.
Hey, the microphone is only
I
picking
mean,
up
I
your
just do
conversation.
feel sometimes that we are sort of, we have a, you know, the TCC that is willing to come forward and put this money on the table, which is excellent.
And we think that that is terrific.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's not enough.
Okay, okay, that's the first thing. And then just on the combination of above or other ideas, I just want to go back to something that I think it's back to the redistribution. And I just wanted to ask a question about, is there any possibility under the Florida system to be able to build, in my high school, we used to have what was called the annex, and lower grades, and I believe it may have been a combination junior high school going through like 7 through 9, that physically was separate from our high school. Maybe not by much, because I didn't go to it. I went to, I know a lot of what we talk about when we go to the middle schools and why kids fall off the cliff, is that very often the thing is you go to one public school, then you go to the junior high school over there, and then you go to totally different. But if we're all going along with the same group of kids, is there any way to put together a sort of junior, you know, lower division and upper division? I know my kids went to a school that was kindergarten through 5th, and then 6th through 8, and then 9 through 12. But the two top divisions were called a lower division and an upper division of high school.
Takes into account that 6, 7, 8 that works really well, and a high school that does not. And those two schools, in my opinion, should stay intact how they are because they both work really, really well. We just did an addition at Celebration High School, and if you talk to the administration there, the cafeteria's not, there are not enough facilities to support what they currently have.
Right, no, it would have to
So
be
we don't-
off-site, it would have to be a separate entity.
But it takes, I don't want to dilute the effort.
Okay, it's just, you
Eileen,
know.
This is a very interesting idea. Leonard, did you want to get in?
Leonard Tim, 411 Campus Street. I've got a question or two first. Basically, I guess this is to Jay or Larry. If you lease facilities, such as the one we're sitting in, is that a different pot of capital money, or is that still your straight capital?
Depends how long.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
The lease is shown on our debt service, and we're capped on debt service limits right now at the district. That's why we're not talking about bonding schools or anything. And to be quite honest, some of the impact fees we're collecting today are paying bonds that when we hit a massive stroke and built 7 schools in 3 years.
Hey, nobody heard that, so let me try and recap. If you want, be better than me butchering it.
Go ahead.
Can I
Yeah,
add
sure.
to it too? What Clyde said was the general type of lease is viewed as a capital lease, and that counts against our borrowing limit. And we are maxed out on our borrowing limit. We can't borrow anymore. We've talked about it before, and I've had an internal discussion with our CFO. If we had someone who was willing to build a school and lease it to the school district on a true operating lease basis where we could fund out in a year, it's a 1 year.
Not a capital
and
lease.
we don't buy it for $1 at the end of the lease, it's not a capital lease, then we could tap operating funds and all that. But that requires a financier who's willing to take that risk, and the question is, that may be your parochial school if we ever did fund out. And
Yeah, thank you, Larry.
So this goes back to what I started to come around with. So if this particular building, I'm not saying it is, was available for you to lease on a short term, up to 3-4 years, that would cover enough into Island Village, so we had a zone here, because this building's been used as a school before, it's built to school specs.
At that time, we you probably have to do modifications to bring it up to the current code, that's the problem. Because at the time, 20 years ago.
Would you have to do that for a leased building, Larry?
Yeah, you would if you were going to assign students to it. It has to be SREF standards. Alternative programs are different. For a period of time, the school district has operating leased, short-term leased, I think the Zenith program in a shopping center. Alternative programs don't require SREF, but anything where we're going to zone kids has to be the hurricane hardened and all that. It has to be built out.
And just because, to your point, Lynn, just because it housed kids 15, 20 years ago, if kids had been in it the whole time, it's grandfathered, like you build a school, but it has been occupied by public school students in X number of years, we have to bring it to code.
But Larry just said that only if you zone kids to this particular.
If it's a traditional public school. Again,
Okay.
if it's a school of choice, a charter school, that wouldn't be a problem.
And I guess most of what I have now is comments. Larger class sizes have been being talked about every year up in Tallahassee. How do we get around the amendment? It's not there yet.
No, it's not there yet.
You don't know if it's going to be there in another 4 years. And we have a bigger white elephant than what number one is up there. The K-8 expansion, and that referred back to this particular building. If done in a short phased amount to cover Island Village.
Can you define that short phased amount, Prince Leonard? Can you be more specific?
Can I take a crack at?
We don't need anything until 2019 here, maybe 2020. So in other words, 2018 would be the year it might start here. And maybe you build a single set that houses an additional 300 or 400 schools. I'm sorry, 300 or 400 student stations over in this area behind where the existing high school, where the existing K-8 sits. Then you wait and you watch the growth. As it fills out, you add on, and I know we have no, he's not here tonight. We have a board member here that does build schools in Orange County. So that would be a way to do that. It would, if under the writing agreement, and I can't speak for the Celebration Company, there was a zone locked down for this area that would allow expansion at the K-8 enough to cover it through for 4 and 5 years. It may only be okay. The other part of the backup plan, as this whole thing, or it could be incorporated with the whole deal, would be making a 8 and 9 grade center at the high school, which would then have to displace some of the high school students that would normally go there. But if they were displaced out to a new high school out in the 192 area, which I know you would take 6-7 years to get it built out there if you bought the property tomorrow. And it might not take that long if Orange County came in with you. But it would allow enough student stations to move non-Celebration residents out. You wouldn't even move them. They would basically trickle it out of Celebration High School, and you wouldn't be filling the 9th, 10th, 11th grades as you move the rest of the residents in. It's kind of a bit of a numbers game as you move it around, but it's a moving target, and I really don't think you know the total numbers because, as stated, right now in the K-8 school, we have a lesser amount than the school district requires for planning. If you just look at the number of Celebration student residents, we have 4,132 due-paying CROA households in Celebration currently. Out of that, it puts out 1,189 student stations in the high school, I'm sorry, in the K-8. And you may find that at the income level, I assume we're not going to have Section 8 housing down in Island Village.
We don't need housing.
No, I'm just, I assume the cost of the housing down there is going to be equitable to what it's been sold for up in these areas up here.
Probably.
And with that said, I think the number of students per household is not going to reach near what the county thinks is going to reach. So part of the whole recommendation would be fund a smaller expansion here, possibly use this as a short-term lease, or lease some rooms in here as a short-term lease during the time you needed to get it up if the expansion came too quick.
Susan,
And then
on theirs.
have relief down at the high school to go to a 8th to 9th grade center. I realize it's a bit of a step proof, but I think the whole thing hinges somewhat on getting an agreement with the Celebration Company that the students in Celebration are going to stay in Celebration. And I think that's what they want to get that 12.3 million paid out for, is to say, hey, if we can do that, we're fine with we don't care where, do you really care where they build another school, as long as you have student stations in Celebration? Zoned?
Yes, I think we do. I think we do
Zones for
care,
those in
but-
Celebration.
But
I'm
I
sorry.
think we do care. I think any developer would care where specifically the school was, but I think to your point, the broader issue was keeping the 80-20 compact alive. And so we've got a commitment from,
We have a ton of room on those.
so I think that's.
The 80-20 compact doesn't seem to go out if you have 2,400 student stations down at the high school.
True.
Well, I think what we heard was Jay's going to get it on the agenda, Clarence is flexible. Okay.
Now, I got a question, though, going back to your point, it's not really you, Leonard. I got Steve Waring here, I got Debbie McDonald here, Vanessa Winters on the CROA. Any other CROA board members here?
Lee Moore's here.
Lee's back there. So I guess for CROA, is this building coming available?
No. I mean, how are they going to get to the cafeteria?
Yeah, I have to
I mean,
interject
I
on that.
just say, no, I just want to know, is this building coming available?
I have to
Not
interject
necessarily.
here.
It's
because
on the list.
In
Okay.
this effort to contain everyone here, these ideas are not in the best interest of students. In this idea of shoving everyone here, so, it's just Celebration, your child's not gonna get the best education if we just shoehorn them where they need to go. Coming from me as a counselor and as a resident, having a first grader, having a pre-K, these are my children we're talking about too, that are coming up. And we're, just finding buildings to put them in is
Yeah.
not an answer.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So Laura, you've been waiting patiently and standing.
So, Laura Desjans at 1021 Banks Road Street. I just have two questions. The first one is, are we all in agreement that we have enough student stations inside Celebration for Celebration students, including the growth?
Well, that's.
Do we?
I personally, for me, I would say yes and no. Today, yes, tomorrow, no. And so this is a very complex answer because at build-out, we will not have enough student stations.
Including the high school?
No, just the K-8. You will not have enough student stations there.
Right.
So they're two different things. So will you have enough, well, for
I'm
Celebration
talking
residents?
aggregates, right? The school and the high school. Do we have enough student stations in Celebration for?
We do
Well,
have.
then the answer would be no, because you wouldn't have enough room for the K-8 students. Even if you took it as a whole, you wouldn't have enough room for the K-8 students.
And what if we move the 8th grade to
Well,
the
problem
high
with the high
school?
school is, and that was from what the county was saying, is that they're almost at maximum. They're
Correct.
looking to purchase land down the road only.
Right.
The no construction is, so until something happens with that, there's no room to put anybody at the high school. So
So
you're kind of
if-
stuck.
Laura,
If the-
that was sort of the point of option two.
I know.
Is just redistribute.
Yes.
Part of the answer, though, is it's a short-term fix.
Yeah.
But long-term, we still have to build more. stations. The question, we haven't finalized the math yet on how many, but eventually, at full build-out, we need more seats,
Even if we move the 8th grade?
even after the redistribution of
Okay,
kids.
and what if we move the 7th grade? Would that,
Well, there's been some resistance to that, but even in that math example that we tried, even after, if you move the 7th grade, which nobody seems to want to do, you still need more seats. And we can verify all that math.
I would love to have
The
that
answer is generally,
verified,
do we
yeah.
really have a problem? The answer is yes, we still have a problem.
okay, I really would like to have the numbers verified, right? Because right now, it's only 30% of the high schoolers are from Celebration, so it seems like we have a lot of seats there, right?
Yep.
And my other question is, if the district has capacity issues outside of Celebration, would TCC be willing to donate the fees to the district?
When you're saying donate the fees, I mean, we're.
Use the impact fees.
TCC
Use the
or
impact fees
developer would be
outside of
paying the impact
Celebration.
fees to the school district. They can use it however they wish, however they see fit.
They can use it however they wish. So why?
We're not,
So
the
can
only
you
reason
respond to
we
that,
were.
Tom? Because you're shaking your head
That
on that
doesn't,
one.
again, I mean, if we got $12 million or $12.3 million to use wherever,
Yeah.
I still don't have enough money to build an entire school.
But what about adding 500 student stations where you really need it at a school which has portables on the other side of town?
Correct, but I wouldn't have space to build a wing at, like, West Side. I just wouldn't have the space.
It's already crowded, and you don't want to make it bigger. It's like,
Reedy
only 50
Creek,
West
man?
Station K, you don't make it bigger.
But I mean, you're
You know,
able to
that's what
add
Tom was
1,000
asking me
cars
to look
that.
at was, do I have space somewhere else? And what the initial look is, no, we don't have land anywhere else to
So
build.
you couldn't rebuild a wing of portables and get more stations? or-
Well, we would like to try to avoid adding portables.
No, I mean, but to take away,
To eliminate it and do
portables
like 2
and build
stories, is that
that.
what you're thinking?
Well, and if I were to, let's just take West Side as an example, okay? The only place that I really, truly could put a wing is exactly where I've got portables right now. So, but what do I do with children in 18 portables during the time that it takes me to construct, which is going to be about, 12 to 18 months? So I don't have any place to put the children during the time that I have to construct. If, in cases where we're over capacity, in many cases, we've got room to put portables, and we can, have the space available
So
to
in
go
that
ahead and
sense,
construct.
portables are permanent effectively, because as soon as you've got portables, it's as a result of overcrowding, and you can't
They're
put the
seats.
kids out of them in order to rebuild.
Until we can redistrict some students out, and there is a possibility that we could eliminate some portables with Plan 1, because we will be moving some West Side students out.
Okay, so we heard a new idea, or I heard a new idea about a school annex that I think we should explore for a few minutes. Now, we've only got 14 minutes left before 9 o'clock, and I don't think any of us want to go past 9. But is it possible to have either a K-8 annex or a high school annex on a different site that could have the basic infrastructure of a cafeteria, but wouldn't have to have all the ball fields that take up so much room?
Good administration.
I mean, it's done, I've seen them in Orange County, I don't know if you have one in Osceola
In
County.
Osceola, the one I remember for a few years, we had the annex at Yeehaw, not Yeehaw Junction, but Kenansville, the community center building until it fell apart. It was an
Susan, can we
annex,
get a
was an annex
number
with
10
Rossi
annex?
Jeffries. Rossi Jeffries.
K through 2nd grade.
Yes, it was an annex to Rossi Jeffries. You can legally do that.
The concern with an annex, honestly, would be being able to offer everything at the annex. If you were talking, whether it's elementary or middle school, I couldn't offer an art class at the annex. So I would say that, I was just referred to the main school as the mothership, okay?
Yeah.
And if you've got satellites, you really just can't offer everything. So the kids in the annex, honestly, in my opinion, would get cheated. They wouldn't have
Yeah.
the same complement of stuff, and they wouldn't have the cafeteria at the
Well, maybe
stage.
that's what I'm saying, that there would have to be some basic infrastructure, like a cafeteria. Can't ship the kids all the way over here to eat, for example,
But they could have a warming
But
kitchen.
the sites that, I mean, there are some sites. Now, the pushback that we've gotten from the Celebration Company is they're not available, or they're not big enough. So what if there was a happy medium? that wasn't necessarily a charter school, it's still a public school, but on a smaller site. Maybe it was 7th and 8th.
Can you give me a little more specific?
What if we had a site out on the boulevard that wasn't 30 acres, but it's 15
27.
acres? And it didn't have fields, but it had classrooms and cafeteria and parking, and it was just smaller, but the kids who were playing sports.
Well, we're
I mean, it's,
Wait.
no, just
Don't have them right
think about
now.
it for a minute. It's a mile away.
But
I mean, if when-
how would they get to, where would they play? I mean, where would you
Here.
do recess?
They don't have these amenities right now.
Here.
Yeah, they.
I'm
don't
just
have them
brainstorming here, but I mean, is that worth considering?
Playground, yeah.
But you have space for a playground now on 27 acres.
Seventh,
You've
eighth
got
grade
space
don't-
for
they
that.
don't
I
really do
mean,
recess,
it's
no.
just not.
Right. I mean, what grades are you talking about? Are you talking
Well,
about
seventh and eighth. You
I mean,
said
it's,
seventh and
it's,
eighth. I
it's
mean-
almost a variation on three.
And what numbers are you, how many students would be there? You know, sometimes you need those amenities though. You know, sometimes you need to meet with all of 7th or 8th grade and you would like a little auditorium to have all of them come into. You know, right now we go into the cafeteria and.
But I just think if you were talking about, I think there seems to be tremendous flexibility on the number of acres that you build these schools on, because I know you said you were discussing middle school on 16 acres, for example, in Island Village. And that presumably had amenities where children could go and play and gather together. You know, I'm not, so.
Then we turn this into a 1,500 student station elementary school. Then we turn this into a 1,500 student station elementary.
Well, that's what you're going to do anyway if you build another middle school across the field on this one. That is going to be a
I don't
1,500 kid
necessarily
elementary
support that
school.
either.
No, right, but that's option one. That is option one. We're looking at 1,500 kid elementary, and we're still going to have our kindergartners eat lunch at 10:30 in the morning because of the number of students of that. So what's the difference at that point?
Bill, you want to come up?
No, there I go.
I left my hearing aids home. So this question may have been answered. I'm sorry, sir, I had a tough time hearing it. What is the official position of the Osceola School District regarding this problem? School district, superintendent of schools, as the chief educator, what's his position, her position on this issue?
I guess Mr. Phillips would probably be the best one to respond.
Well, I mean, currently, staff is recommending option one. And that would be something that was discussed with the superintendent and has her backing, option one.
Yeah, Tom, I won't put words in your mouth, but since she's not here, we did meet with Superintendent Luciano and Tom and Clyde and Rhonda. And what I heard in the first couple minutes of that conversation was, one was the best option on the table. It's kind of the king of the hill, but if you got a better idea, bring it.
Absolutely, which is why
So
we're
you're
here.
flexible. So there's, what I didn't hear was that anybody is so entrenched in that position that they couldn't be moved off of it, if there's a better idea. And I hope that's a fair characterization.
And I would love to
Does that
get
help?
some clarification from the
That-
district.
Yeah, that helps, but in terms of process, it seems the superintendent and the educators should be having a meeting and saying to the community, this is what we came up with. They should have been doing the legwork. Well, what about this? And then they're grilled on why that and not these.
Yeah.
And they do the homework, and you come in with the questions. You seem to be taking that, doing the superintendent's work, if you
Well,
will, the
let me-
school district's work.
Let me, you know what, in some ways that's not fair, and in some ways you're dead on correct. I mean, we all question, why are we even doing this? I mean, we all have better things to do. But the problem is that when this idea was first made known to the community, we all thought it was on the 1 yard line and about to happen. So there was a little bit of community panic that it was imminent, and we had to do something to prevent it. We mobilized, we marched down Town Hall, we all brought pitchforks and torches, and, I mean, we've been through that. Then the CROA decided to stand up a task force to try and come up with a better idea. Now, is that the absolute best way to do it? Probably not, but that's where we are. So what we're trying to do, Bill, and I think this is a fair question, just so everybody understands.
Just for the
We're- We are, we're
Just
trying,
to
yeah,
clarify though, Tom, that they did do this process at the district
yes,
level.
yes.
So this is not something they have
No.
not already done.
No, but there's an interesting question you're asking. I mean, why should we presume to do the professionals' work for them? All we're going to do is make a recommendation and try to assure them and the community that we have studied all the options, that we've brainstormed, that we've considered opinions, that everybody who wanted to vent has vented. We've heard them, and in 2 weeks, we're going to make a recommendation. CROA and the school board and the company want to take that, that's their prerogative. If they don't, they've got to come up with a better idea, because we're not going to let Plan A happen.
You won't,
If I may
you
say-
don't want to let Plan A happen?
Right. Number one, sorry.
So,
Right. But they're saying, if you've got a better idea, bring it.
okay. Some people have mentioned this. Rebecca, you're the most recent. Why the urgency?
So, Bill, if I can, part of the urgency, we're now finding out, was unnecessary. But, I mean, this is since we stood up this task force. So can we slow down a little bit? Sure, but we've got some momentum, so let's keep going.
Well, I don't know if you need January 4th as your deadline.
Well, if, you know what, if we get to January 4th and we don't have consensus, we'll delay.
I'm not sure you understand the Celebration Company is trying to sell the land actively. In order to sell the land, then you have
We
to
need
hand
a
it to the
decision.
developer.
Right.
That is the crunch, so.
Right.
There
But
is a
let me-
there is a time constraint.
Lee, let me paraphrase for the audience. The urgency that we were all acting under originally was the
that 80/20?
was the expiration of the agreement in June. If everybody proceeds and Todd can go back to the Celebration Company and work this out with the school board and get an extension, hopefully a very long-term extension, then some of the pressure's off. There's other pressure related to just the commercial aspect of Celebration Company wanting to sell Island Village. They've got a hot buyer. You know, we don't have to rush to the point where we're making a foolish decision, but while we've got momentum, while we've got a schedule, while we've got the community mobilized, let's use this energy. But we're not going to be railroaded, we're not going to be bullied, we're not going to be rushed. If we're ready on the 4th, we'll make a recommendation. If we're not, we're not.
Also, the school board has an urgency to put a plan in place for a certain time period for student stations. So
18
you've
months
got
to
a
build.
combination of deadlines that kind of merge together.
The perfect storm.
Yes and no, Tom, because the number I heard earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, they were talking about 2018.
The student station problem is
It's
not
2
in
years to go to
Celebration,
school.
it's outside Celebration.
It's outside, so.
The student station problem that the district has is currently outside.
So you guys know precisely what that enrollment's going to look like here, 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 and here, and then at a certain point in time, do we have that certain point in time, we need more space? Point in time. It depends on what?
When houses start coming out of the ground.
Well, that's what I want to know.
Well, that's what we've said. The earliest that houses will come out of the ground is August to September of 2018. And what we understand from the capacity standpoint is that those homes would not have capacity at the K-8.
That's when they start to come out of the ground.
Yeah, Bill, so do we have this with specificity? No. But
Yeah, no, it's all
If,
Well,
if the
even
land,
in general.
yeah, if the land is sold, if the developer proceeds, if all the permitting goes as scheduled, they'll probably develop 100 houses, which is going to produce 25 students by 2018. We've got 25 student stations capacity already, so it's not urgent. It's not life-threatening
But it
yet.
does take 18 months to build.
Okay, so if you're really talking about the hit coming here, and you have 18 months, you're looking at the middle of 2017.
Right.
Okay, it's just the beginning of 2016. So I go back, the only point I want to make is, you do a super job. You really do. Really, and I take my
We've
hat
been
off
through
you
this before, Bill.
for chairing this. It's wonderful, that, and all of you, by the way, that you're willing to do this. All I'm saying is, I said it last time, we're going to be living with this for the next 20, 30 years. You can't do it in 4 weeks. You can't do it in 4 weeks. Give yourself a little pressure valve, if you will, and come up with the right decision. But I think you should ask staff for that information, and then, plan accordingly, please.
That's good counsel, Bill.
Could I ask that?
Rhonda does.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Could I ask? I mean, what kind of additional student stations are you looking for? Not in Celebration per se, but you're wanting this as a safety valve too, right?
Correct, yes, and that's why
And that's-
2018 would be our target.
And that would be your target for outside as you're
Correct.
watching growth?
And it allows for us to already have the capacity that we would need for Island Villages, and the capacity concerns that we would have within Celebration.
Okay.
So that's
So
why
it
that.
both fits?
Yes, yes, and we have been working on this for the last, 18 months probably.
Tom.
And with the exception of charter school, we have explored these options. So what you're discussing, other than to hear what your concerns are and your pros and cons, we have had these discussions.
Okay.
As with staff and Celebration Company.
Everybody in the audience is trying to hear you.
What number did you say, Tom?
2018,
What number of students to answer Pat's question, what number did you give?
I don't know that I gave a number.
You
I think
didn't-
I said
I
2018.
didn't hear what you said, I'm sorry.
2018 is when we would be looking to have a
gave a
school
date.
to build and meet our capacity concerns on this side of the county.
Okay.
So that, if you're talking about urgency, that's where I guess it comes in for us.
Okay, and the point I wanted to make too is if we're looking at 2018 being the magic time that they need, or the developer needs a solution on the table, and then counting the 18 months to build it, okay, let's say we end up with the 1,000 student stations. Okay, they're going to fill it day one with people from outside. And then as we grow, those people are going to have to get shoved out. But there's this whole thing, there's a whole thing that the school board's always been strict on. Once a kid starts at a school, they go to great lengths to keep them there and their siblings there. So, that brings the whole 80-20 into play again. So the more things we clear off our table, the better our solutions come. Because once the kids are in there, it's going to be real hard to get them out.
So I'm getting signals from the audience that it is 9 o'clock, 9:01. Let's go around and just kind of closing remarks. Larry, are we sunshine law compliant?
Yes, Jay was very correct. The school staff published notice. They're publishing notices required by sunshine law for each of your meetings that 2 or more members of the same collegial body of the school board may be in attendance. So we're good. We'll
Okay.
have minutes of this meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is a public place, open to the public. We publish reasonable notice, and we'll have minutes. So we're good.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, you can also do video.
Mr. Wheeler, any closing comments?
I just want to thank you all, and I wanted, because Tom didn't want to recognize Tom's family for attending. Thank you so much for being here. You got to see Tom in action.
There's never been so many Sonneborgs in one place.
No, just thank you all, and I appreciate it. And in fairness, I mean, I don't know if you want me at the next meeting or not. If other board members attend, I will come, but I'm not trying to stymie anything. If there are more resources available, that come available, again, the calculus changes, but right now,
Yeah.
I got to bring something across the finish line.
Jay, we want your support, and we're glad you're here. We do want to get your colleagues, in addition to Clarence
I'm
and you.
glad Clarence came. He
Yeah.
had a
Well,
family
maybe you can
situation.
help get us, in addition to you, somebody else next week. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you.
Todd?
Good. Thank
Bill? You get a CDD meeting tomorrow?
Tomorrow night.
Okay, do you report back to them with an update?
I will, and we'll also talk about how the board wants to handle this going forward.
Okay,
Is
good,
the
thank you.
hotel tomorrow though, correct?
I believe so, let me check.
Hotel tomorrow and the new building in January.
There you go.
For those of you who are interested, we've got a workshop at the school district starting at 3 on security, but that's closed. Then there's one immediately after where we are shortlisting superintendent finalist candidates. So that's supposed to start at 4 PM tomorrow. If anybody is so interested or so inclined, it's open to the public. 817 Billbeck Boulevard.
All right, thank you. Steve?
No,
Tom?
that one's-
I want to, at the next meeting, continue the discussion with the combination 1 through 8.
Okay.
Because I need to expand on what Rebecca has stated.
I missed what you said,
Yeah,
Tom,
Tom, can you
sorry, I
repeat
couldn't hear
that?
you.
So we need speakers at the next meeting, because we have 4.
I mean, it's a giant speaker, what I'm saying.
Because it's hard to have a workshop environment. The audience can't hear, and the people at the other end can't hear. It's very difficult.
Y'all heard me, Tom?
No, we heard back and forth, but as soon as you go down there or anyone behind you, they're having trouble projecting and stuff. It's, you know, so, and it's hard to have people say, speak up, because then it just throws everything off. So if we can
I
get
can
some.
get a mic at least, and maybe some.
Okay, thanks. Pat?
Thank you very much.
Couple things. Next meeting is December 21st, next Monday. It's at 6 o'clock in here, not 7. We were invited earlier to, if we wanted to take a tour of the charter school. Anybody want to take advantage of that?
I would recommend that if we get further down the process and we have like 1 or 2 options and the charter school is
one of them.
right, then I think we should dive headfirst into that. I definitely think so.
The only
Okay.
catch is relative from a timing perspective is the 28th, I mean, next week,
Right.
probably get people there easier than you could the 28th and after January 4th, I don't know, because the school's back in session.
I know.
Okay, so we'll follow up on that.
I
Jay,
think
thank
we'll
you.
try to
If
figure
anybody
that
wants
out.
to, next week, beyond next week, they weren't willing to commit.
It might be after. The most encouraging thing I heard all night was from you and Clarence about the agreement, getting that on the agenda.
Absolutely.
Todd, can you carry the water back to Celebration Company and let us know?
They pay me for it.
Excellent.
February, thank you.
February 4th, when we're bringing it forth, the first meeting in February.
Okay, thank you. Jay, can we also get the charter school packet electronically, just to attach to our notes?
Sure, I'll email it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I don't have the charter application electronic.
Whatever you've got, just to be thorough.
If somebody has that application, we can scan it and email it to you.
Okay, one last
I
thing.
want to do it in a couple of files, because if you take it all, it's a huge file.
There you go. One last thing for me is, let's make an effort task force between us, and Vanessa, if you can help with this, is we keep getting asked about the math. Between now and next week, if we can have something idiot-proof for me.
Well, I don't know that there is idiot-proof because it depends on what numbers. I have the numbers that the district has supplied from Rhonda Blake. Is that the number you want to use, or do you
Well-
want to use the rounding number that we've got?
But
So guess-
I would say that Jeff's actually developed a really interesting analysis of those numbers.
Okay.
And I think we should look at that.
Can we get it, Jeff, can you take the lead on that to get something that we could actually hand out?
For sure.
Okay. And maybe amongst all of us, if there's a math question, like how many this, or what's that, send it to us so that we can prepare the presentation so it answers the questions. All right, I'm done. Rebecca, anything?
I had some points that I wanted to clarify. Perhaps we'll get a chance to do it next time, such as I think Todd was saying the developer would be willing to give their total funds for a solution that was geared in several directions if their own seats were guaranteed in Celebration. I'd really like to get clarification from you on whether some large portion of $12.3 million really couldn't do some good in this school district, which is apparently completely overrun.
In this school district, it can do a lot.
Right, at other schools, building on other schools. I'd
Other
love to
schools,
hear
maybe
that.
not.
Yeah, but I mean, that's really incredible, and I'd love to see why that's not possible in any of the places we're talking about.
All right. Jeff?
Sharing session.
So the only point I would make is, and Vanessa and I will talk obviously, is we really need to understand the numbers better to come up with a strong recommendation. Because, 1,000 seats, I understand the district's need, and don't want to diminish that at all. But to Vanessa's point, if it can, or Rebecca's point, pardon me, if it can be used elsewhere, and be closer to home, that's great. We don't in any way, shape, or form from even remotely close to these numbers. We don't need 1,000 seats here. And if we did, then I'd turn to TCC and say, well, now you're getting all of your impact fees in advance. That's maybe another $8 to $10 million in value to you on your development. So let's talk about a different contribution model.
No, we wouldn't be getting impact fees.
Certainly, because what we're talking about here is if we build for the entire celebration build-out, just the same as now, we're saying, let's ask the developer to front the money for the impact fees. That's, back of the napkin math, $20-some million.
Let's just show that next time.
He's talking about the other 900 and something
Yeah,
thousand.
exactly.
It's not going into
But they would pay that.
That's
to
taking
some-
10,200 per impact fee.
Yep, okay. Vanessa?
No, thank you
Susan?
very much for your time.
Tom?
Thank you very much.
Where she had a cheering section, I may get tomatoes thrown at me. I'd like to know, I'd like to have more information on the expansion of what it would get to, what would our students get. I'm, like, he's the attorney for the school district, I feel like I'm the attorney for the students. What are they gonna get? What's gonna enhance their education in that?
You mean in option one, or?
What's that? In option one. What are
Okay.
what are the kids in this community gonna
And
get?
that's a great point, because just this evening at the SAC committee, that's what the principal said, we would love this, we would love that, we would love this. And I said, is that included in the new plan? He said, I haven't had any assurances that it is.
Then I don't want empty promises, but I just want to know if anything was possible.
I'll say it again, I'm supporting the plan.
Okay.
I would like to know, I'm sorry, what those requests are.
Okay.
Because we may not have, not necessarily right here,
Yeah, but
that's fair.
but if you could just, give me those requests.
Ideal things that we would need.
Ideal, yeah.
Okay, so just one moment. So next time, we're gonna take these 10, 9, and shortlist to 2 or 3. So come prepared to debate. We might actually have a vote of something next week. We haven't been doing a lot of that. We really have 2 meetings before we have to make a recommendation. So come prepared to, study the pros and cons, come prepared to suggest your top 3. Last comments from the audience, please. Can you come up?
So there were a number of concerned citizens that didn't know anything about your task force meeting, and there's people like me, and I just came because I heard through the grapevine that there was a 7 o'clock meeting tonight. So I was just wondering if there was some place that I could direct people to go to read the meeting minutes or to see the proposals.
Well, one at a time. Tom, please answer that.
So the front porch is the main communication that we decided to go ahead and communicate everybody with. So if you go to the front porch, under civics, under education task force, there's a running thread of each and every meeting. There's links about the videos, and I update after I do my minutes. When Town Hall gives me their minutes, I update that information as well, so everything is there. So you'll be able to see everything that happened from the first task force meeting, and then by Wednesday, you'll see everything else that happened tonight.
Great, thank you.
So that's where
You're
everything
welcome.
is.
I've got a sunshine question. Just 1 minute. Mike, you were next. And then Mr. Wheeler.
Mike Jackson, 413 Sycamore. Until you said that we were going to shortlist 3 out of this group, I was comfortable and I wasn't going to say anything. But there was one that was touched on tonight that I think should be on the list, that I just think got glossed over pretty quickly. And I think it ties into Rebecca and some of the other comments that maybe some type of a more modest expansion here at this location to accommodate the, let's just call it this geography. And then obviously the school district has an issue outside this particular area that needs to be addressed. And I think we heard that the developer money could be available to go elsewhere as long as the builder and whoever was satisfied that they had a school option here that they could market to sell homes, which I think a small expansion here would do that and should be able to satisfy that. And then my thought is that you look at West Side. And I don't know what the annual cost of a portable is, but I think we have 20-plus portables at West Side right now? 18 portables. What's the annual cost of a portable?
They're about $450 a week, or a month, or whatever.
Somebody do the math on that. And you look at the site plan, and you look at the geography that's there, and what those take up, and they're single-story, they're inefficient, they're not the most desirable thing to do. I think you rebuild on that site a facility that's probably two-story and take up that space there. The only objection or downside I heard to this particular option is we'd have to phase it, because it's going to be a 12 to 18-month construction cycle. And there's people a lot smarter than me, and I've seen a lot of construction projects in my life, but you can do phase 1, phase 2, you can get one portion of it done, leave some portables up, you can move them around. If that's the only negative on this particular option, with everything else that we've seen, and it's on existing school property, so we don't have land costs, so we don't degrade the $12 million in terms of seats we can buy and so on. And the big driver in this whole thing, let's face it, is available land, free land. Right here, they want to do it here because it's free land. They want to do it in Island Village because they can get free land. So you need free land so we can optimize the money for the seats. That's what it comes down to. And I think West Side, only because of the phasing, should not be thrown out. And I think you still need to do something here to satisfy the immediate geography, and the developer and builder can be satisfied that there is a good school option that can be marketed for home values. So I'd like to see that one stay alive. Thank you, Mike. Okay, if there's nothing else, we are
Only because of the holiday break coming up, I've got a question really for the attorney relative to Sunshine, because school district staff will not be around the 21st, 28th, those meetings. Relative to taking minutes, do they have to get stuff to somebody, or should they get it to your office as the steward until such time as we're back at the session?
30 business days, the standard 2 minutes, but in the interim, if Tom, if you could get it to my office.
Yeah, this week you're good, but start the point, I was just because I thought of the 21st and 28th. Yeah, get that stuff, get that stuff to Larry's office, and they can just. Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody. I think we're all out of gas. Unless there's any objection, we are adjourned.
She has Miss Bone, right, though? Yeah, they do. They do. They have Miss Bone, but they see her like one every 7